The federal cases, let's remember, include that Donald Trump incited an insurrection on January 6th, and that he egregiously violated the federal law and took home and refused to turn over, as the law requires, vital intelligence documents that he hoarded and that he showed off. So it is essential to our national security that these cases be able to play out. But we do have Supreme Court decisions that established immunity, so those limitations exist, and it's going to have to be sorted out on the federal cases that remain. The state case is, I think, something that we're going to have to keep an eye out on. Certainly, Donald Trump had his day in court, was convicted on all 34 counts by a jury of his peers, and a sentence should hold him accountable.
Congresswoman, should President Biden pardon Donald Trump before he leaves the White House?
I'm not going to be here and tell President Biden what he should do. I personally don't think there should be pardons coming in these cases. These are very, very serious crimes that he's committed. The cases should play out under the rules that the Supreme Court has structured. And so, no, I don't think that President Biden should be pardoning him. President Biden, I know, will be focused on trying to make sure we can continue to finish our agenda strong, continue to bring down the cost of prescription drugs through the continued negotiation after the Inflation Reduction Act successfully brought down the cost of so many prescription drugs. That has to continue. We have to continue to make sure we bring the CHIPS Act implementation forward, because as Speaker Johnson clearly indicated that they were going to look at trying to repeal that. That would be outrageous. We need to make sure that we manufacture computer chips in the United States, continue to create those homegrown jobs. So we have a lot to do while the lame duck session is in session. Well,
and in the remainder of Biden's presidency, Congresswoman, I don't have to tell you that there is within your party a lot of blame being cast on Biden for not stepping away from his reelection campaign sooner. You, of course, used to chair the DNC. We can, I guess, Friday morning quarterback this all we want to. I wonder, though, if you can diagnose what went wrong in this cycle and what the Democrats need to do differently in the midterms in 2026 and then looking forward to 2028.
I've been through a lot of aftermath analyses in post-election losses, and one thing that we need to not do is finger point. The blame game is inappropriate. Look, we have to face some hard realities here. We had tremendous accomplishments under President Biden. We have the strongest economy in the globe post-COVID, but we failed to connect, obviously, with a lot of key constituencies that were previously supportive of Democrats. And we've got some work to do that I know we're going to come together as a family and focus on under Hakeem Jeffries' remarkable leadership, whether he is the minority leader or the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and I still think that's possible. We need to come together with our other Democratic leaders on the leadership team that I'm proud to be a member of and do an analysis. And we have to make sure that we focus on the priorities of the American people, that the diffuse communications system that exists today made it unable for us to penetrate. We have to make sure people know we understand the challenges that they face. When I was on the campaign trail, Kayleigh, I still hear from people about the price of groceries. We cannot let grocery companies not pass on savings that they are clearly feeling in the retail at the retail level. And we have to make sure that we're listening to people and responding about the impact of the remaining dregs of inflation that still exist.
Congresswoman Kayleigh recalls your time when you chaired the DNC, and we all remember shortly after 2012, the autopsy that the Republican National Committee put forth. It was a 100-page report. Remember, Reince Priebus said we're going to put our cards face up on the table and better appeal to Latino American voters. That was part of the outcome of this election, that in some cases Latinos broke for Trump. And I wonder your thoughts on why. We only have a couple of minutes. I don't want to set you up here for too much of a dissertation, but what would your autopsy say today?
I represent a very large Hispanic constituency in my congressional district, and that outreach is absolutely critical. I wouldn't say that the Republicans under Trump have done such a good job allowing someone to call the island of Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage right before Election Day. Probably wasn't the best way to show that they support Hispanics. But we have to recognize Hispanics are a multi-ethnic population. They can't be treated as one size fits all, and you can't only talk to them near an election. And that's something that we have to get to work on, and we have to make sure that we're talking to them about their priorities: the economy, education, healthcare. That's top of the list. And then we also obviously have to deal with immigration challenges and some of the other things that are more uniquely specific to the Hispanic community as well. We're going to do that and more.